everybody. Thank you for being here today. We will talk about the online club. As some of you know, many years ago, more than 10 years ago, this new concept of a club in BPW started in Canada. BPW Canada had the first BPW online club. Today, our speakers will be Jeanne Martinson, BPW Canada. She is the current president of BPW Canada Online Club. She is a researcher, writer, public speaker, and publisher and editor. Kathy Telban from BPW USA. She was the founding president of the virtual club, the first one in the USA. Established in 2012, she has also served as first vice president for the US Federation at the national level, as well as other positions, and is an executive manager and outcome strategist. Our third speaker is Daneene Monroe Rusnak from BPW USA also, has held many local, regional, and state office, including 3 terms as club president. She currently serves as the Federation PR chair and is the president of the virtual club. Thank you for our speakers. The floor is yours.
I'm Martinson, and I'm from BPW Canada's online club. And my goal today is to share 10 ideas that I think will help you build a successful online club. So first of all, the question is, do you even have a reason for building an online club? So here's some of the questions to ask yourself. Do you have dispersed participants? Meaning the members that you want for your club or the people that are interested in the club as guests, they're all over. And so you want to bring them together under one kind of umbrella. Secondly, time constraints. BPW Online Club has much tighter meetings because people come and they get online and they're part of the meeting for an hour and a half, and then they go offline and they get along with their business. That a lot of physical clubs, it's usually an evening club, and a lot of BPW clubs around the world, it tends to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 hour thing. Getting to the meeting, networking, socializing, the speaker, and after the speaker, more socializing and getting home again. So sometimes just taking an hour and a half out of your day makes it more reasonable to a lot of people, and you get better attendance. We're taping this during the time of COVID, but we know that things are going to be very different in the world going forward as far as the reasons that people come together or don't come together. So in some countries right now, there's legal reasons as to us being able to be together in large groups, but there might even be medical reasons where people feel cautious about being in large groups as we go forward. And lastly, I think a good reason to have an online club is to be able to access global panelists and speakers. When you have a local club, you're pretty much dependent on who's coming through town at the moment or who's in that larger community, unless you have some amazing funds to pay for travel and that kind of thing. So one of the questions to sit down with initially is, do we really have a good reason for starting an online club? The second to think about is to decide the focus of your club. Now, your club could focus on issues. So in Canada, some of the larger issues that we're debating right now is issues around global trafficking and missing and murdered Indigenous women, women in politics. So your club could focus very much on those big issues. Your club could focus on networking and socializing. Your club could focus on professional development, for example, learning some of these new tools of online development, or personal development, understanding your finances and retirement issues, or issues around managing, being part of the sandwich generation where you're raising children and taking care of parents. And then you could have a large focus on club business, BPW. So working on national bylaws or working on issues that are specific to BPW. Now, I think in the sense of BPW Canada Online, we're primarily an issues-focused club. However, we've got meetings that are specific about club business, where we talk about the resolutions that are going to our national body and that might go to the international BPW International Congress. So we've chosen a percentage of this and a percentage of that, but it's important when you're first deciding the focus of your club is to ask yourself, how are we going to address these different issues? Where's our focus going to be, so that the women that you attract to your club know what they're getting. They know what they're signing up for. Be 100% online. So what does that mean? Because you know, you don't have a branch of a bank that you go and you deposit these membership checks to, and you don't have a checking account that you pay your national dues and international dues to. So the online platform for finances that we have chosen is PayPal, which allows members to pay their dues with credit card or through a PayPal account. And we transfer our dues to our national body, BPW Canada, through that same platform. So that's a different thing for each country to think about and to research what you can do and what those fees might be and whether that's worth it. Secondly, to determine where are you going to put your stuff. You know, when you have a physical club, someone has that box that has the charter and it has the bylaws and it has all of these documents that you collect over time. So it's important to recognize, where are you going to have a depository of this? And if you have a website, it could be there. It could be some specific online cloud, but it's definitely something you need to think about and think about at the beginning, because you want to set up as you need to go on. It's important to have at least 3 key players to have access to your social media accounts. They might be set up by one particular member. So for example, our Facebook page, BPW Canada Online, is actually under my own Facebook system. But there's several people who are also authorized as administrators. So this is something to think about as to how many people, because you want to control, especially the financial, you want to make sure you know who has those passwords. But if someone is in control of that and they end up in hospital or, God forbid, something worse, and can't communicate or take care of that area of the club, you need to have other people who can step up and do that for you. Decide your membership structure. This is something that you need to spend a lot of time talking about to your national body as to how you're going to structure your club. BPW Canada Online, we are technically a club within BPW Canada, which means we have members, and the members pay international dues and they pay Canadian dues and they pay tax on their Canadian dues, and they pay travel pool fees, which is a fund that we all pay into to subsidize travel to our convention every 2 years. But what we don't pay is provincial fees, because our members are from all over the country and we have members from outside the country. So there's no way to pay provincial dues because we don't belong to a provincial association. So with Canada, there's BPW Canada. Each province, most provinces have a provincial organization, and then the local clubs are underneath those provincial organizations and underneath the Canadian body. So we don't pay regional or provincial fees. As far as GST or VAT in some of the European countries, again, we don't pay provincial tax because we don't pay provincial dues. So in the United States, it would be state dues, for example, if they have a state organization. But it's important to figure that all out ahead of time, because once you set up all these documents and forms, you want to go forward with it making sense. And these are all things that you need to do in cooperation with your treasurer and your membership chair at your national level. So BPW Canada Online, we have members, and those members, as I said, pay the same dues as a member of a local club, a fixed club. What we also had come up over and over is members who are a member of a physical club somewhere else saying, well, I want to be a member of BPW Canada Online too. Can I pay dual membership? And You cannot because you're already paying your international dues and your Canadian dues, in our case, our national dues. So we came up with the concept of the ambassador. And the ambassador pays the same amount of dues, which is $25 at the moment, as the as the BPW Canada online member pays, that is separate from the Canadian and international dues. So if you're already paying your Canadian and international dues at a local level, you pay an extra $25 to the BPW Canada online, and you're considered an ambassador of our club. So what's the pros and cons of that? For the club, the pros is we get more money in, but we have more resources as far as if we want to do any committee work, more resources for speakers, more support, because those ambassadors are also members of other clubs. So they're talking about BPW online in their physical club. I think this was a very good decision for us because it allows BPW Online to be really connected to all of the local clubs. And so we often have ambassadors and guests who are part of other BPW clubs coming on to calls that they find of interest. So it's definitely, I think, something to consider. And again, something you need to decide in your membership structure right up front. Number 5, choose a great time. Sometimes if you're already a physical club and you're going to do an online club, you think, well, we meet at 5 o'clock on Mondays. Let's just have our online meeting at 5 o'clock on Mondays. If all of your people on your online club are in a very specific regional area, that makes an easier decision. Because we intended from the very beginning to be, first of all, a club for BPW members where they're living where there isn't a club. We intended to be a club for BPW members who cannot get out to their club for whatever reason. They physically maybe can't get out to their club because of physical disabilities, or the nature of their work is such that they can't attend a meeting, whether they work shift work or they just simply cannot get to that meeting from where their workplace is. So we wanted to provide those two, but we also wanted to provide the opportunity for BPW Canada members who are now living in other countries. So they're a BPW, they live in Canada 2 months of the year, but they're somewhere else, or they're on sabbatical somewhere else in a different country, or they used to live here and now they've moved to another country. So actually our secretary lives in the UK. She's occasionally in Canada, but she's a BPW Canada online member living in Cornwall. So it's really important to think about these issues around time and not to be flippant about it, but actually do some thinking about it. So what is that best time of the week and time of the day? So with BPW Canada Online, first we looked at where are these other clubs meeting? What time are they meeting? Let's make sure that we don't cross over too much. So we chose the second Tuesday of the month, starting at 5 o'clock on Pacific time. As the best choice to not be in conflict, first with other clubs, and secondly with the conflict of the commitments that our possible members might have. Secondly, when it comes to time, is think about time zone, which is also partly why we chose 5 o'clock Pacific time, so that we can get the majority of our British Columbia members on. We have members in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and right across the country all the way to the UK. So think about that. The third issue to think about when it comes to choosing time is not to have it too early for any night owls that you might have in your club or potential members, and also not too late for early birds, because if your meeting goes till 9 or 10 o'clock, you might have them switching out of the meeting and disconnecting, and you want to have full engagement for that hour to 2 hours that you have them with you. Number 6, choose a platform. With BPW Canada Online, we went back and forth a bit between GoToWebinar, GoToSeminar, GoToMeeting, Zoom, and eventually we kind of settled on Zoom as a platform. And there were several reasons for that, but every club has to decide what makes sense for them. And I'm aware globally there's a lot of other choices as well. Zoom seemed to be the best choice for us going forward. It allows us the minimum of screen sharing, as you see I'm doing here, as well as it allows, it seems to us to be a little more user-friendly as a platform. But again, research them all and make an informed decision before you start your club. Secondly, platform sponsor. So the platform sponsor is whose Zoom room are you in? Who's organized the GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar? So who's in charge of the platform for that meeting? So they are the sponsor of the platform. And then thirdly is tech support. And it might not be the host and it might not be the platform sponsor, but it's, oh, someone's having problems coming in or someone can't seem to get their chat to work. So this is the opportunity for someone who's on the call is to address those technological issues, especially technical issues that the speaker might be having. 7, how do you market your events in your meeting? Certainly there's a lot of things that would cross over as a physical club. One of the key things is to have an email database, which is of anyone who has come to a meeting, any guest who's ever registered, anyone who showed any interest, and of course giving appropriate permission, privacy-wise, to hold on to those emails and that information. Social media is key. BPW Canada Online has a Facebook page. It's important to have a Twitter account. We're not doing as well on that. You could also have some of the other social media. We found that the majority of our members are focused on Facebook, and that's where they're going for news. So part of it is to establish what it is that you want so that people know, okay, if I'm looking for new information about the club, where is the latest information? So I can join that page, follow that page. Also, LinkedIn is also a potential. Event pages on Facebook. So whenever we have an event, so generally our monthly meetings that are open to the public, so the only one we wouldn't would be our AGM, is the only one we wouldn't publicize an event. We create an event page on Facebook and often will actually boost that as an ad. So put $25 or $50 into that event for Facebook ads. Word of mouth, surprising how many people are interested in our online club because they talked to someone else who was a member or was a BPW member and has heard that there's an online club. This is still a real important thing. And to make sure that your members are the people who are interested. I've talked to a bunch of other women and said, are you interested in this? Do you find this interesting? Would you join? Would you want to come out as a guest and see what it's all about? And then lastly, before the meeting starts, have an agenda at the front of the meeting that you're sharing and that has the dates and the speaker topics up. So as I'm sitting here waiting, chit-chatting with people, I'm saying, oh yeah, there's the next date. I jot it in my diary. So recording and permission is a very important thing. And you can't be flippant about this. You need to have done a little bit of due diligence with this. So in the context of first, ask your speaker if recording is possible. And you can't assume that the answer is yes. They might not want to share that information, or they might feel that the information might be misinterpreted if it's watched by someone else who wasn't part of the discussion. And so there's a whole bunch of reasons why speakers might not be comfortable with the recording going out. Equally, they might not be comfortable with a copy of the PowerPoint slides that they share. And so it's important for that discussion to happen with the speaker before you even agree to have them. Because if it's really important for you, if you set up your club that it's always that they can get a copy of the recording, then that might change who it is that you ask to speak. So this is something to take very seriously. Tell the registrants whether there will be a recording available after the event. So particularly for people who are guests, not for members or ambassadors, but particularly for guests. Because if I have a drop-in fee for $10 and I know I'm not going to make it to that meeting, but I know, oh, it's fine because I'm going to watch the recording. What if I don't get it to that meeting and that meeting isn't recorded? So this is something that has come up a couple of times. So we've had to make really clear rules and make it really clear to people who are registering for the event whether it will be recorded or it won't be recorded. Third, tell the attendees that they will or will not be recorded at the beginning of the meeting, because for some people this will matter. They will not share things on the call that they know might go out to people that they don't know are listening. This is very important for privacy, so please take that seriously. It's important if you say it's being recorded that you send the recording out. And you can deal with that two ways. You can say, if you want a copy of the recording, email whoever is the tech support person. Or you can say, if you want a copy of the recording, we will be sending that out to everyone who attended the meeting, as well as anyone who paid for the meeting who didn't attend, or all the members or the ambassadors. And so again, be clear upfront on what are the rules of distribution. Have good meeting management. Well, these are little things, and they probably are things that you've already heard about or thought about. Don't start on time. And what I mean by that is open your Zoom room up or your meeting up early so that people can come in and visit and network. And as they come in, encourage them to say who they are, or even to say, oh, here we have Jeanne Martinson coming in from Saskatchewan on the call, and just announce them as they come in to facilitate that relationship of networking. And secondly, start the meeting late if it's necessary. If you know you've got 20 people coming in on the call, and the call is supposed to start at 3 p.m. and it's 3 p.m. and there's 2 people, wait a few minutes. Sometimes people have challenges getting on, and just give a little more time, and then make a decision when you're going to jump in and do that. Encourage people to share their mic and video unless you have a challenge with bandwidth. If you have a challenge with bandwidth where the speaker is going in and out, or that you know, the frame is freezing, then just ask everyone to click off of their video and just to see their name, but to share their mic if there's conversation going. Another thing you can do there as well is to encourage people to close off any applications that connect to the internet, because that also slows down the call. Acknowledge people as they join the call, as we mentioned. Encourage people to connect with others for further information or to share. So this is to build off-meeting small group connections, but also it's to keep your meeting moving forward. If you find that you've got 2 or 3 people kind of bogging down the conversation, ask and say, you know what, Jeanne, John, Fred, why don't we encourage you to connect with each other? Please share your email address in the chat, and perhaps you can discuss this area specifically off the meeting. Lastly, 10, be forgiving. Stuff happens. When you're on an online call, cats walk around computers, kids are talking in the background, and, you know, I don't know, the odd husband might walk in the background with just his boxers on. Stuff happens. And we can try to be very professional when we're online calls, but, you know, it's important to be forgiving. Crosstalk, when you are in a BPW physical meeting, and the speaker says something, and you might say to the person, it's like, well, you know, we should go and think about that. Or you say to the other person, I can't believe she already said that once before. You have this conversation kind of going sometimes on at the table that you're at. And so it's important to recognize crosstalk is heard by everyone. And to encourage people, if you want to communicate with someone else on the meeting while the speaker is speaking that isn't directly towards the speaker, please go into the chat room and make sure that you chat only to that one person that you want to make the comment to. Encourage people to mute their mic if a speaker is speaking. And this is part of that conversation too that you have with the speaker ahead of time, is to ask them, do they want people to interrupt them? Do they want people to ask questions? And you need to have a protocol so that people are perfectly comfortable of knowing, okay, how is this going to work? If you have a technical breakdown, so for example, the speaker can't seem to bring up their PowerPoint slides, or they want to show a video and it won't connect. This happens all the time. And so it's important to give a little bit of time for this to happen, but then to move the speaker forward to say, okay, we seem to be having a technical issue here. Let's just move on. And if you could summarize the rest of your presentation to us, that would be wonderful. You don't want to freeze off for too long. People will leave the call. And to be forgiving for the lack of knowledge of platform. I was on a call just the other day. There was 89 people on the call. Someone came in late. They weren't muted, and their video was on, and so they popped in as one of the panelists, and the noise from their mic was pretty considerable. So we need to recognize sometimes these things happen, and we need just to be just able to say, can you just mute your mic, or very quickly do it for them, because we're all learning. And so it's really important to understand that everyone is at different levels in this process. So in summary, I'd like to thank you so much for connecting with other BPW women and women who might be BPW members in your area. I think that it'll strengthen us as BPW members nationally and globally. And so good luck with it.
Telban, and I'm the founding president of the virtual chapter in the USA. I'm here today to actually give you a little history on how the club started, which was in 2012, and also share what we're currently doing, as well as ideas that you may have from this presentation to be able to start your own virtual chapter. It took 2 years to get this virtual chapter started, because it was an idea, an inception of an idea, because one did not exist at that point in time. And so the first year did a lot of extensive research and actually benchmarked with BPW Canada, who had already established a virtual chapter. Also, there were some survey done. We had some in the USA individual members who really didn't live in an area where there was already a BPW chapter, which is why the idea came to have a virtual chapter so that we could all get together. There were 36 individuals at that time in 13 different states. 17 of those gave us some feedback on a survey, and we actually ran 3 focus groups to learn about what drew them to the organization, and also to get some interesting insight about things that we should consider. What I found interesting is that people were drawn to the mission, to legislative focus, and they wanted to belong to an international organization, as well as be able to network and build friendships. Some of the very interesting ideas they had, some of which we have still not done, but I still think they're worth considering to do, is to identify some special interest groups within the organization where you have commonality, even by age or experience or profession, or even if you're people who like to travel and you want to actually build a group of people who like to travel together as well. And programming, the interest in programming from people were international perspectives, legislation and technology. Those were the 3 common ones. And when we started, because we also had to have funds, we actually charged for some of our programming. Some was free, some was charged. So our inaugural meeting was in April of 2012, and it was on pay equity. And so I wanted to kind of give you some background of what some of the research I found when I was looking at virtual organizations. And this I thought was a great definition of what a virtual organization is. It is geographically dispersed, so people can collaborate. And the key is there has to be a shared goal. And then obviously you have to be able to share information and communication. And you have to have technology to be able to support this kind of organization. It also, in addition, allows people to share their skills and knowledge and build each other's skills and knowledge, especially around a virtual environment, which we're all living in our workplace now. The other thing I discovered around what would make an effective virtual organization, and in fact this makes an effective organization in general, is that there is clear purpose and a shared understanding of that purpose, being able to constantly have a way to communicate and connect, sharing knowledges, having really clear processes, because you have to be able to support it. But one of the key things is trust, building trust, because you're not connected, and you have to do that when you build any organization, but it's really important when you're trying to build relationship with people you've never met before. And so relationships are what's really critical to work on. You can have technology to help support it, but to have sustainability, you have to build a relationship. And so it's really important for people to feel connected to one another, as well as connected to the mission of an organization and its purpose, and to be able to continue to strengthen those relationships and actually just genuinely care for each other and similar issues to be able to collaborate around. So trust is really important. And trust is really measured in terms of reliability. So I thought that was interesting when I did my research, and I thought about my BPW experience, and realized that, you know, people are their integrity, that they do what they say what they do, and how important that is, especially in a virtual environment where you have virtual handoffs to each other. You have to trust that you're all going to do your part to keep this going, and or, you know, be able to utilize and learn from each other as you're bringing in new technology to keep the organization going. And so that's one of the other key pieces, is being able to build an infrastructure with technologies. And I'm going to hand this off to Daneene Monroe Rusnak, who can talk about these. These technologies for the USA virtual chapter have evolved as technology has evolved. So Daneene will talk to you about what the current technology we use. So take it away, Daneene.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you so much. Yes, definitely technology is the infrastructure of an organization that's virtual. It pretty much goes without saying. And technology has evolved. We are seeing more and more platforms and software that can be utilized. A lot of things have just been added as we go along. We sort of navigate our way through, and what we've done here is just broken down different areas based on functionality of some of the technology that we have used and we are using. So initially, when we're talking about marketing, we've used items like LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We have recently, over the past year or two, begun to utilize the platform Instagram. What I've noticed as the current president and over the past couple of years during my term is that there is a shift, and in keeping with the times, we've not utilized LinkedIn quite as much for our purposes, but we are exploring more into Instagram. The marketing portion of that just shows the power and the efficacy of something like a social media platform. Next slide, Kathy. Moving on, we noticed that we also very much needed financial tools. We've been very fortunate to be able to grow with the times in that way as well. Most banks now do have some form of online banking. Things like PayPal are very effective. They make things very easy when it comes to dues and fees and things like that to manage them all, and security, that you definitely need that extra level. And then things like QuickBooks for your own internal accounting are very effective. There are a rash of variety of different types of platforms. It's really, I think, just finding what's comfortable for you as an organization, and then for whomever might be responsible for utilizing those tools. Next slide, Kathy. And then operations. One of the things that we do is we do have digital greeting cards that we utilize and send out during birthdays and special occasions. We are in a moment now where I think the whole world, if they didn't know about Zoom and other virtual platforms for webinars and conferences and face-to-face meetings from a distance, they are now. And Dropbox is definitely something that our organization utilizes a lot, which if you're not familiar, is basically an online file cabinet in the cloud where documents can be filed, sorted, and shared and stored securely with easy access, so that that information can be shared throughout the membership. And even shared on a website or on your blog post or whatever mechanisms that you use to communicate with the public. Next slide, Kathy. So one of the things that we've noticed, going virtual, being virtual, there are some differences, obviously, that you may be meeting with people and getting to know people that you've never shared a physical space with, but many things very much also stay the same. We still have our legislative platform that's core to the BPW mission and who and what the BPW clubs are. Our history very much shared. We go back to those very same core instrumental roots that are so important to us, and I think what has drawn us and others to this organization. And of course, bottom line, women helping women, women empowering women. That is again, I think, something that attracts and brings us together. I think that this is a time that we're seeing even more of that. It brings me great joy. I'm so proud and grateful to be a part of something that has that kind of a core mission with the legislation and advocacy at its roots. I think that's extremely important, and especially here in the US, I think it's more important than ever. Next slide, Kathy. So going back to what is different, yeah, we meet online instead of face-to-face, although now online does mean face-to-face. We have those capabilities. So it's really just a nuanced reference. The technology tools, I'd say it's important for in-person organizations as well as virtual organizations, but it is especially important for the virtual organizations because that is very much where they function. It's in that space, and it's all technology dependent. Our bylaws, we review our bylaws. We actually have just gone through that process, reviewing our bylaws so that we can function in alignment with national. It's very much the same. None of that has really changed just by virtue of us going virtual. It has only changed in the sense that we have continued to grow just like any other organization has. And a lot of the benefits are the reduction of travel time. We have been able to obtain speakers from anywhere. We have had visitors from all over the world, maybe perhaps some of you who are watching right now. And we do have the ability to record our meetings and make them available to the public and to those who can attend. And I suspect that that's something that, you know, clubs that are meeting in person are able or now considering taking advantage of too. So I think it just as far as virtual chapters go, they may just be a little bit more accustomed to that and do that on a more regular basis. Next slide, Kathy. So for recommending programming, I think that is one of our strong points for sure. We have been very fortunate to have some excellent programming. There are a few key points that I'll brush through here really quickly that we do make us an intent to try to incorporate through our federation years. And then, of course, in keeping with the times, we do our best to select speakers that are speaking to current events, but legislative focus. We do believe that it's very important for us to know our history and our current state. You have to know where you're coming from to know where you're going, and we rely very heavily on that and keep that at the forefront as much as possible. We do, as I mentioned, find experts, subject matter experts on any topic. That comes into play a lot of times when, especially when we're dealing with current events. We've had some of our most popular and well-received webinars and presentations have been on the ERA. So we were fortunate to be able to connect with speakers who are experts in that area. We've done article discussions. I know here in the US, we're very fond of the publication Ms. We have pulled out certain articles and had discussions on those in a similar fashion. We've also done book clubs. We've done a couple meetings in the summer. If it's a large enough book, we'll split it over those 2 meetings where we read and discuss, and those are always very popular as well. Technology and tools, reintroducing, educating. If you realize when you begin a virtual chapter, it's very likely that you're going to have a variety of levels of comfort when it comes to technology. So we are often asked, as we bring our population, some of our population who aren't tech natives, into the fold and more comfortable, we do our best to put together programming to help with technology. And I know any of our members and myself as president and having served as a social media and technology chair, offer myself to the membership on a one-to-one and personal basis as well to help guide. We know it can be overwhelming for folks and intimidating. So that's definitely a topic that's also very popular. And I think each club just has to see what their membership and what is looking for, and meet, address those, and that helps you when it comes to programming. We've also done joint meetings with other clubs, and another one of our favorites is the holiday party. You can do very interesting things, like for us, the holiday party, we'll have a fireplace, we'll play music. This past year, we actually played online Jeopardy and online bingo, I think it was. So there is a lot of variety to keep it fun and engaging while still, informative and educational. And I just think it's a great way to reach out, because the outreach is so big. Next slide, Kathy. So our biggest challenges, not surprisingly, are pretty much the same as the challenges that any type of group faces these days. It's recruitment and retention. The world is busy, and we know that. Trying to find ways to reach, social media has definitely helped, and I believe that we are beginning to see the effects of that reach. We have been able to secure some new members who simply found us online through our social media platforms or through the website. And then leadership succession planning, same thing. Having something in place so that it could basically be a handoff. That's key. That's very important. It keeps it very streamlined. It keeps it very simple. It makes that transition very smooth. So those would be my tips personally for things to focus on and things to keep in mind that may be a challenge as you go forth and create and explore your own virtual chapters. But I definitely want to thank you all for taking the time to visit with us today. We hope you've picked up on some good pieces of information, and I wish you all the best of luck. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
We want to thank our speakers in this video presentation. We heard first from Jeanne in Canada, and then from Kathy, and then Daneene in USA. Each of these virtual clubs has been ongoing for some years now. And like any physical club, it's had ups and downs, challenges and joys, and we've heard about some of that from each of these speakers. Each of the speakers talked about as well the steps to setting up such a club, and then to maintaining it, and how to function, and various platforms you can use for that. In addition, they talked about the reasons for setting up these clubs and the kinds of members that you might expect to attract. So we hope that in this time in which we're all operating primarily or exclusively online, that you can learn from the ones who have been doing this for some years already in the BPW context. So thanks once again to our speakers, and thanks to you, our viewers. We hope that you enjoyed this video and that it's helpful to you. We hope too that you will share it with your BPW affiliate and other BPW sisters, and that you will view all of the other videos on this channel and join one of our live webinars soon. See you soon.